The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton is brought to you by Dubby. What is Dubby? Dubby is a clean energy drink that is made to give you focus with no crash, jitters, or angst like those other energy drinks have. They also have no maltodextrin fillers and don't use artificial dyes. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. W's products are made in the USA in an FDA-inspected facility that strictly adheres to GMP manufacturing guidelines. All of the flavors are unique and custom-made by W, and you'll never taste our taste anywhere else. The best part about it is they're affordable. W's drinks come out to about $1 per drink, much cheaper than Starbucks or any of those canned energy drinks. To learn more, visit w.gg.com/discount/MRTipton33 and place your order today. Use promo code MrTipton33 and save today. W Energy, be better. What's going on, everybody? I want to tell you about my new friends over at Cleverman. Visit them online at becleverman.com. What they gave me was the energizing face and beard scrub along with the Cleverman face scrubber. And trust me when I say this, the energizing face and beard scrub smells amazing. Combining it with the face scrubber, making sure that your boy was looking as good and sexy as possible, opened up a whole different sensation in my face that I haven't ever felt before. I felt so clean, so fresh, and so clean, like Outcast said, and it helped me feel like I was ready for my day. Make sure you visit them online at becleverman.com and follow them on Instagram at clevermannyc. The link is up in my bio if you want to check out all the amazing products they have. Visit them online, becleverman.com. It is the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, hanging out with you here on a Thursday morning. I had to kind of try to figure out what's going on because I hear my dog barking right now, and that's never a good thing whenever the dog is barking that loud this early. Makes me wonder what's going on. I haven't gotten anything on my doorbell yet, so maybe, just maybe, I'll be all right. If I die in the middle of the show, make sure my legacy goes along with me. Tommy Carranza saying, good morning, Tip. Good morning to you, Tommy. Hope you're doing well. Sonia Pearson, who I was on with yesterday, was a Prim and Proper Sports along with the National Professional Sports Show. She says, good morning and sharing. I appreciate that. I need to get in the habit. Like I really need to get in the habit of sharing the show out a little more than what I do. Sonia saying, OMG. I'm trying to figure it out, man. Like the dog doesn't necessarily bark unless there's people there. And my doorbell hasn't said that there's people there. Who knows what could be going on at this exact moment? Sonia also showing us a little bit of love. Had a fun time on the shows yesterday. Me, Sonia, Bistrilla, we were all part of it. Keith Engel, J-Train. J-Train came after me yesterday. He was on one. He was heated yesterday. I liked it. And of course, our guy Bo Crouch tuned in and was a part of the show yesterday as well. Tommy, I lost the bet. I told you, and I think it's because Sonia was watching that she knew what the plan was, and she stayed as far away from the Dallas Cowboys as she possibly could. Want to give a shout out to anyone that's tuned in over on Instagram right now. Julie Maher, who's tuned in. Larry B. Bolton, who's tuned in. Nelson Bradley, Britt Mack, who's tuned in. Thank you all so much for being a part of the stuff that we're doing over on Instagram, trying to grow the show, have it in multiple areas all over the place. Tommy's saying he tried. We did try. I saw you try, and I told you I wasn't going to do it. I was not going to be bringing up the Dallas Cowboys in that. I very rarely on other people's shows bring up the Dallas Cowboys. On this show, all for it. Obviously, we're based in Texas. We got a whole bunch of like Dallas Cowboys news and haters and things like that that are going to be satiated whenever we talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So it's one of those things that makes me happy just being able to talk about them. But it is opening day, and I am so excited about opening day. I'm one of the few people that still romanticizes baseball. You see what I've got right here? I've got my San Antonio Flying Chanclas hat. This is from the San Antonio Missions, a AA team. They become the Flying Chanclas the same way the Chihuahuas become the El Paso Margaritas. Tomorrow, opening day in AAA baseball, so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun time dealing with all of the nonsense in AAA baseball. I love minor league baseball. It's so much damn fun. Don't go for the game, you go for the experience, and that's what I love about minor league baseball. All right. So, with that being said, and with me knowing that most people aren't going to listen to me talk about baseball, I am going to plow through the baseball content here because I need to talk about it, guys. Like, there's a lot going on in baseball. If you don't watch any of the games today, try to find the matchup between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Miami Marlins. These are both going to be extremely bad teams. Marlene Salcedo saying, good morning, boys. Good morning to you as well, Marlene. Hope you are doing fantastic today. One game. That's all I ask of you guys. Just one game. Because you have one of the most dominant pitchers out there in Paul Skeens taking on another dominant pitcher, a former Cy Young winner with the Miami Marlins. He was injured last year. And you've got Sandy Alcantara. Paul Skeens, Sandy Alcantara. I'm a Yankees fan. I have zero connection with either of these teams, Pittsburgh and Miami. I know it's going to be a bad year for the New York Yankees, for my New York Yankees. I know it's going to be a bad year. But I'm still excited for baseball. Baseball is back today. The first game of the new season played here in the United States because opening day was at 4 o'clock in the morning Mountain Time in Japan just a couple of weeks ago between the Dodgers and the Cubs. Major League Baseball, you got to get better at that stuff than what you're currently doing right now. I don't mind the expansion out to, the different countries and stuff like that. I'm not one of those weirdos that's like, oh, the games only matter if you play them here. I'm not one of those, right? I expand out all you want. The NFL's doing it. The NBA does it. Hell, the NBA had a great game. Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs going and playing in Paris that ESPN didn't cover for whatever damn reason. It was such a fun game. I love international crowds, by the way, especially in like wrestling, baseball. It's so much fun. The international crowds are so much fun. But Major League Baseball's opening day season is starting today. And the first game of the year, the New York Yankees at home taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Then, of course, you got Toronto, Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, Texas hosting Boston, the Texas Rangers with their debacle that they had with the hat. I have to find one of those hats. Y'all see it all the time. I have to find one of those hats. I was told yesterday by a very, very good friend that they always look forward to see all the different hats that I wear. I have way too many hats, and I can't wait until I get credentialed by the El Paso Chihuahuas. I should be picking that up tomorrow, where I get to buy myself a new hat. All things football from a lady's perspective, saying, yeah, that Rangers hat. If you haven't seen what I'm talking about, let me see. Maybe I can bring it up here. Like you even have to go looking for it. I thought it would be one of the first things that you would see. All right, let's go. We'll go over to images. I might have to share the screen here. Whoops, I messed that up a little bit. I love technology. All things football from a lady's perspective, saying congratulations on the Chihuahuas endorsement. I appreciate that so much. The El Paso Chihuahuas always, it's so weird, this lane that I've carved out for myself here in the city of El Paso, where me and my goofy self, I'm able to get credentialed by, the University of Texas at El Paso, the El Paso Locomotive, my former student Diego, who does pictures for me, going out there doing amazing things, getting his pictures put out by the El Paso Locomotive, doing a phenomenal job. If you don't follow me on Instagram, please go follow me on Instagram, because I'm always sharing the work that these kids do. This year, one of my former students, again, Ada, is going to be covering the El Paso Chihuahuas along with me and Brandon, the Iceman Cone. This is going to be my 5th season under the Tipton Sports Broadcasting umbrella, where we are going to continue covering all these things. Obviously, put in the credential for the NFL draft, so we'll see if we get to make the trip over to Green Bay. Got accepted to the last 3 NFL drafts, so maybe, just maybe, we keep we keep it rolling. I couldn't go last year to Detroit because American Airlines. We're not going to get into that conversation again. American Airlines, you will never have my business ever again. I'll have to drive to Green Bay if it comes down to it. I just got to make sure I leave early. I had to drive to Kansas City, so why the hell not drive to Green Bay? I've driven from El Paso to Alaska. Trust me, that drive to Green Bay, it ain't going to feel that long. I feel like I drive way too much now that I think about it that way. There you go, the TBE, the TB Empire. I got you. Hey, you know what? I like that. The Empire. We got new tippies. And saying, kicked off in America, eh? Oh, yeah. I think that's one of the things we're going to do there, guy. We're going to start talking like we're French Canadians now. Oh, boy. I have a ton of friends in Canada. Marlene saying, oh, yeah, the draft. Where's my shirt, by the way? LOL. Someone. I have it in my backpack. It's all up to you. It's been there for like 2 years. Whose fault is that? No, the airlines. Yeah, the last 3 times that I've needed to fly out of El Paso, and it's not 100% an American Airlines thing, but whenever it's 3 times that you need to fly out to actually go do stuff on business, and the airline just keeps pushing your flight back, there you go. You get tired of it. Tommy Carranza saying, I sound like Brandon. Oh, yeah, when he does the Minnesota, don't you know? I also think it's so funny whenever I do like the different accents, because people, I guess, don't expect it coming out of this face, right? American Airlines, I'm saying you got kicked off? No, I did not get kicked off. They kept moving my flights back. So the first one was the draft in Kansas City. And I'm doing all the things that I need to do. I've checked in. I've done all that stuff. I paid for my ticket. I did everything. I get an alert at like 7:00. Your flight at 2:30 is going to be delayed for like 40 minutes. I was like, all right, cool. I got a 2.5 hour layover in Dallas anyway. I'll be all right. Then I get another email. Well, your flight's actually going to be delayed by an hour and a half. You know what? Still got an hour layover. I'm good. Then it's actually your flight is going to be delayed by 3 hours now. And it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to miss my connector. We got to find a way to work this out. The solution they gave me was, we'll fly you from El Paso to Vegas to Atlanta to Chicago to Kansas City. And you'll get there Friday morning. It was going to be like an 18-hour flight pattern to do all this stuff. And I said to myself, that is absolutely ridiculous. That's not going to happen. So what did I do? I got in my car, loaded up the Mustang, put the all the luggage in the back, all the recording stuff that I had in the back, because I had to do a show from the draft, all of the equipment that I had in a Mustang, and just hit the road like a bat out of hell. And it might not have been the best driving as fast as I did. Want to give a shout out to Insomniac PC, who joined over in on the Instagram page. It might not have been the best way of driving that fast. I did see a explosion from when a truck hit a car or a van, and it just blew up on the highway just randomly in like northern New Mexico somewhere. And I had to stop in traffic for that. Like it was like a whole thing. It winds up being like a 16-hour drive to get from El Paso to Kansas City, which I'm fine with. I've driven much longer. I've already said that. So I'm good with drives. I don't mind the drive. It was just I had to do it last minute overnight, and that was a nightmare. It was the first time I had ever had like a Monster. I was like mainlining Monster and Red Bull. I normally stick with W Energy because they don't give me any jitters, but I needed something a little extra. So I went with that, right? Just liquid crack into my system. So that way I can be able to get through, and I did that. Then last year for the draft in Detroit, once again, booking with American Airlines. That was always, and like you say, it was usually top notch. Last year with American Airlines, at the last minute, completely just wipe out my flight. Like, again, you're going to be delayed X amount of time, and it winds up being, okay, well, now we're going to be like a 4-hour delay here. And I call the airlines. It's like, I got to find a way to get to Detroit. Because it's too late for me to drive now. So now I've got to find a way to get to Detroit. And there was nothing that they can do to get that flight for me to get to Detroit. And yeah, like, there was another time where I had to fly to like Chicago. And once again, American Airlines just screwing it all up. So this year for the draft, I've planned out. I'm going to get to Green Bay on Monday, and I will spend the whole week. Like if I got to sleep in my damn car for a couple of days, it's going to happen that way. I will not rely on flying out the last moment anymore because, woof. I like that drive. It was going to be a 26-hour drive. I want to say, yeah, a 26-hour drive from El Paso to Detroit. And someone like an idiot told me that I need to, instead of driving, that I should go via train. Locomotive, which would have taken much, much longer. All things football from a lady's perspective, saying American was giving you the American tour. They're like, look, we'll just send you all across the country. You'll be able to see all these different areas. It's going to be a fun time for you. You'll get to see all this stuff, but you'll be late and you'll miss the first round of the NFL draft. That was going to be the issue. I didn't want to miss that first round. Wound up having a great time in Kansas City. It was awesome. I love whenever I get to have my car. I don't like rental cars. I love whenever I get to have my car because I was able to take the top down. My guy, Travis Stoner, who owns Three Missions Brewery, he actually lives in Kansas City. So we hung out. We had a good time. He was a part of the show. It was always fun. You know, being able to get my friends credentialed so that way they can walk through and see all the cool stuff with the NFL draft. I showed up super early on day number 2 of the draft, and they had Motley Crue out there doing like a sound check. It was me and maybe 70 people, like just right there at the front of the stage, listening to Motley Crue, just jamming out. It was such a fun time. I know you're prim and proper sports. I want to give love to the actual name that comes through. My apologies, Sonia. Don't beat me up. I'm terrified of you. You would decimate me in a heartbeat. Well, yeah, that was all the issues that I had with American Airlines. I'm hoping this year everything goes smoothly with the NFL draft. We shall see. Fingers crossed. I'm already worst case scenario in my mind 90% of the time. So I feel like that's where I'm going to have to be when it comes to the NFL draft stuff because, man, I've planned it out. I'm debating on whether or not I should give my mock draft next week or as we get closer to the draft. So we'll figure out whenever that happens. Hey, there might be a slow sports day that we'll have to, get back to that. As I had mentioned, though, I wanted to show y'all the Texas Rangers hat. And there you go. The Tetas, as they have them as. And I sit here and I think to myself, how does that go through all of the channels and marketing and all the stuff that they have to do. And no one says, you know what, that might be a little messed up. Right? Like how can you look at this hat? And again, like, it's a beautiful hat. I love the Texas Rangers color scheme and stuff like that. The hat that I got last year from the Major League Baseball All-Star game and all that stuff. And once again, shout out to them. I am so lucky, guys. I genuinely am. I realize how lucky I am that I was able to get credentialed by Major League Baseball to go to the All-Star game and home run derby and all that stuff. It was so much damn fun to be able to do that stuff on this tiny little platform that I have. But you have the Tetas Rangers. How can they go through all of the channels that they have and nobody stop and say, guys, that's not what we want it to be. That's not a good look. That's not anything that we should be putting out there. And obviously the one that they had for the Anaheim Angels, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, is that what they still are these days? The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim? Are we still doing that? The hat they had for them, equally as bad, probably a little worse. I just realized today, also, I'm streaming on X. Forgot that I wasn't going to be doing that, but we're back there on X. Maybe there's something about it. Marlene Salcedo say, maybe it was for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You know what? I'm with you on that. I genuinely wish, I genuinely wish that someone there would have had the foresight to be like, no. This isn't what you think it is. We're all about saving them. Breast cancer awareness. We're going to turn the hat pink. Oh, man. Marlene, I think we might have just come up with a brand new marketing scheme for the Texas Rangers to save that hat. Dye the hat pink. Now you can give it out, sell it out during October. It's going to be a fun time, a fantastic time. The marketing machine of Marlene and Mike coming back at it. Or, Marlene, I might just have to have you make me a pink hat like that for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, because I think Major League Baseball has already destroyed all the evidence that hat has ever existed. Marlene saying, you're welcome. What can I say except you're welcome? That's enough singing from me for today. You always know it's going to be a weird day whenever I start singing at 8 o'clock in the morning. Once again, the amount of energy that I have at 8 o'clock in the morning should not be this amount of energy. I also should have fixed the white balance on my camera, but you know what? It's fine. It's all good. We're powering through. Okay, so that's enough of baseball. Marlene saying, not me singing along with you in the car. Hey, I am good with it. I always wonder where people listen to the show at, right? Like whether it's driving, whether it's in the car, whether it's, at the office. I found out yesterday, Tommy, it's going to be in the shower. Augustine, it's going to be in the bathtub. Really weird, guys, that you would do that to me. But you know what? I can't get the visual out of my mind. And what can I say except I like it a little bit? I mean, come on. You can't blame me on this. But I almost went through that without laughing. Damn it. I wonder what, and I genuinely think about this, right? Like, I wonder what the other people that are associated with National Streaming Sports who are gracious enough to allow me to be on this platform, what they must think whenever they get unhinged. We're probably not going to talk too much about sports version of Mike Tipton, because I've said it a million times. The show is sports adjacent. Marlene saying, driving my kid to school and drinking my coffee at home to finish off the show. I like it. I like it. The amount of time. I also wonder, because Tommy listens to it with his kids in the car as well, sometimes. Marlene is listening to it with her kid in the car as well. I can just imagine that these children are thinking to themselves, why is this crazy SOB allowed to say the things he's allowed to say? Sonia saying, watching from bed, a night of insomnia. Oh, I know all that too well. I've had to get brand new prescriptions to help your boy fall asleep. Shout out to Dennison9819 over on Instagram for tuning in. Shout out to you. Thank you so much. Trust me, I know all about that insomnia. It's one of the worst things that someone can have. So I know all about that. Hopefully you get a little bit of rest later on today. Giving us the prayer hands. I'm with you on that. I am with you on that. Okay, so yesterday, LeBron James was in the news because he goes on Pat McAfee. He starts talking about the different eras. He speaks about, how he idolizes Jordan and all these things and blah, 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 blah. And I was listening today to Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio. My guy, Pat Costello, a producer on that show. Shout out to him. You can catch him on Bob, Jim, and Pat Get Drunk on the internet. So we do that now and again. And the conversation that was had, thank you, Sonia. I always love whenever I get those compliments. Like, your voice is soothing for rest. I love that. Like, whenever I had my jazz show, my late night jazz at Tipton's on KTEP El Paso, your NPR station for the Southwest. Whenever I had the jazz show, people would tell me that all the time. Like, dude, I turn on the show on Tuesdays just so that way I can hear your voice because it helps me fall asleep. I was like, there's two things that I have to ask about this. Is my voice that boring? And speaking of the good times over at KTEP, you talk about like just timing up, things timing up perfectly. My girl Dia Hesma joining in, DJ. She and I used to work together over at KTEP whenever I first got started in radio. One of the most talented people that I know, DJ. She's out here doing some amazing things. DJ, if you can, please get in the chat. Tell me what it is that you're doing since I see that you're over on Instagram. If you're still there, let me know all the cool things that you're doing because, as you know, I will always, always, always support. Always support. And she hits me up with a yo. And that was a throwback, right? Whenever you get the late night jazz at Tipton's on 88.5 FM, KTEP El Paso, your NPR station for the Southwest. I should charge them for that. I just gave them a free plug. But okay, so she's teaching dance and cannabis consulting. You and I are going to have to talk about that cannabis consulting. No, I mean, I'm not going to say that on a national platform. What? I stand by it. So I'm talking about the whole thing with LeBron James, right? Like, he goes on he goes on ESPN Radio with Pat McAfee. DJ, thank you so much. I got nothing but love for you. I love that compliment all the time. My favorite all-time voices. Thank you. He goes on Pat McAfee. He's talking about his relationship with Michael Jordan, talking about, comparing now to the past, and on Unsportsmanlike, people get so upset with the fact that you're comparing generation to generation, right? And I'm one of these people, like, I hate doing that stuff. I think it's a lazy sports argument. Whenever you're like, oh, Bill Russell wouldn't be able to play in today's NBA because of blah, 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 blah. And vice versa, saying players from today would dominate the players from back then because of blah, 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 blah. There's no way that you would ever be able to get those games underway unless you simulate it on like NBA 2K or something like that. And even that is not reality. It's still a video game. So LeBron saying that if Giannis Antetokounmpo played in the 1970s, he would get 200 points in a game. There's a part of me that kind of agrees with the aspect that I think Giannis Antetokounmpo would be unstoppable, right? The game is different. The game now is so much different. And LeBron James in the 1970s would be looked at as like some sort of witchcraft, right? That's what they were saying about Kyrie Irving. The way that he handles a basketball would be looked at as absolute witchcraft because no one would have any idea how to stop Kyrie Irving, one of the best ball handlers that we've seen in the history of the NBA. Conversely, I still believe that if you brought Bill Russell into this era and you gave him all of the training, all of the stuff that they have, that he would still be a good player. Would he be the greatest champion of all time? Probably not. If you brought Jordan into this era, would he be the greatest champion of all time? Probably not. He'd be a fantastic scorer. He'd be, the modern version of himself, basically, because it's only been 20 years since he's been out of the game. but would he be Michael Jordan? And the thing that I think makes us look at these players with a different outlook is the fact that most of the time, what we get from, sports now, sports coverage now, is brought to you on social media. If Jordan had to have lived through the social media age, I don't know how well someone like Michael Jordan ages in that time. If we already knew about the gambling, if we already knew about the smoking cigars and the staying out all night and partying and doing all that stuff, like basically being Babe Ruth of basketball, imagine how that would have been amplified, multiplied with social media, right? How would Jordan have been able to handle the social media age? How would Babe Ruth have been able to handle training today where it's like, oh, okay, well, whiskey isn't good for you? Who says that? Smoking cigars isn't good for you? What kind of training regimen is this, right? The players from the past that were great, I still think would find a way to be great, if not okay, if not good, in the modern version of baseball, and vice versa, right? Like if you transplanted LeBron James and made him play basketball the style that they did in the 1950s, where you couldn't kind of palm the ball and move it around the way you wanted to, where you kind of just had to dribble it with your fingertips, a la Bob Cousy, I think LeBron James would still be a phenomenal basketball player, right? Shout out to accessory hoarder _373 who tuned in over on Instagram as well. Marlene Salcedo saying, I think back in the day, people were not as sensitive. Man, I tend to agree with that, right? Like, I think people handled criticism a lot better than the way that they handle criticism now, right? Like, I think that that's one of the main issues that we come across is people don't know how to handle any type of, and I don't even know if I want to call it criticism as much as I want to say like critique, right? Like that's what I think people have an issue with, is anytime there's a critique of what it is that we do, like even myself, right? Like I get critiqued all the time. I want you guys to critique me. Tip, I didn't like that conversation. Tip, I didn't like the way you said this. Tip, you're a horrible human being and no one likes you. You deserve to die alone. That's a little harsh, but I'd still roll with it, right? I'll be like, you know what? You're probably right. I look forward to a critique, but we don't seem to get that out of like regular people and all of those normal things that you have to deal with don't seem to want to be critiqued, especially now athletes, right? LeBron James not wanting to be critiqued by Stephen A. Smith. He addresses the Stephen A. Smith thing the other day, right? Like, oh, I can't believe Stephen A. would say this stuff about my kid. Every single one of us would have reacted the way that LeBron James reacted to Stephen A. Smith whenever Stephen A. was coming after his kid. Every single one of us would have done that. Marlene Salcedo saying, I'm sure there would be a separate chat rooms where you could smoke, like in Denny's. Yeah. Can you still smoke in a Denny's? When was the last, like when's the last restaurant, or what is the last restaurant that allows you to smoke inside? I don't even smoke. I just I remember as a kid, like the different, like, would you like a smoking side or would you like the regular side? And the regular side still smelled like smoke because smoke travels. What a weird concept. Smoke goes everywhere. Everything's going to smell like smoke. Then sometimes you get all the smoke. Shout out to Matt Barnes. I hope you all get that reference of all the smoke. Shout out to Matt Barnes, because if not, then I'm just going to feel like I'm sitting here all by myself laughing at my own jokes like a psycho. Marlene saying not in the city limits. Oh man, that reminds me of some adult clubs back in the day. You know what? I'm not going into that conversation. No, but the separation is still there in some restaurants. That's interesting. That is interesting. I got to try to figure out if there are smoking areas in certain restaurants and places like that. Seems fun. Seems like it would be something that kills you slowly. Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at is I find the conversation of comparing generations to be ridiculous, right? Like, and the one thing where I think you can say today's athletes would be exponentially better than the athletes of back in the day would be the NFL. That's the one where I say we can say that unequivocally, right? Like, one of the conversations that was had is like, you got to put respect on every single generation of every single sport. And I have to think about this, right? Like that 1972 undefeated Miami Dolphins team, their offensive line averaged 6'2", 250 pounds. That would not be able to block a defensive end in today's NFL, right? Like Micah Parsons would have his way with whoever was on that offensive line of that undefeated Miami Dolphins team from back in the day. The athletes in football now are exponentially better than what the athletes of back in the day were. And I don't even think that you can say that I don't think there's a rebuttal for that, right? Like the football athletes now are so much better than the football athletes from back in the day, right? Like I still think Gale Sayers would be good. I still think Jim Brown would be good. I'm just saying on average, your average NFL guy is much better than the average NFL guy was from back then, right? Now imagine what, like if that was your offensive line, averaging 250 pounds along the offensive line, imagine what that team would do against Joey Bosa, against I can't even think about, like that's just a bad, like you got the Bosa brothers coming at the Miami Dolphins offensive line from back in 1970, still, using old techniques to block and do all those things, man. That's just hilarious to me. Like the visual of that is hilarious to me. Like, wait, that's a defensive lineman? He's bigger than me. And I'm not saying it to be a jerk, right? Like maybe just maybe they might have been okay, right? Like they might be able to hold their own in this weird simulation that we're doing. But I mean, come on, man. Imagine like a cornerback from the 1950s having to guard CeeDee Lamb or DK Metcalf. Like, it's just not going to happen, man. It's just not going to happen. Football's the only place where I think the biggest difference between athletes can be seen. I think football is that place, right? Because it just feels like they're bigger, faster, stronger than they've ever been. And that's even comparing them to like 10 years ago, where DeMarcus Ware comes out and he's like, I wouldn't be able to get on the field in today's NFL. Like I genuinely wouldn't be able to keep up with these guys. Yeah, Marlene saying that, not to mention how much bigger dudes are nowadays. Freaking middle school little dudes are big AF now. They really are. Like they genuinely are. I walk my kids to school every single day, right? And there's a couple of kids that I'll see and I'll be like, there's no way you're a middle school kid because you got a deeper voice than me. You have more facial hair than me. And then I just also have to remember that maybe just maybe they are, because even though I was little in middle school, I was like, 4'10" or whatever. I had a deep voice and my beard was growing in. I had to start shaving every day when I was 13 years old. Like that's just how it was for me back then. Now these kids are, bigger. They're walking around with their knuckles on the ground and all kinds of stuff, very Neanderthalithic. And I just sit back and I think to myself, okay, I hope you play sports. Like, I genuinely hope you play sports, because if you don't, you're just being BFN. If you don't know what BFN is, it's big for nothing. If you're big for nothing, then, man, it's a waste of potential talent and all kinds of things that you have going on for you. Once again, we are live on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are brought to you by our friends over at W Energy. I love W Energy, guys. It gets me through the day. It helps me focus. The fact that there's no extra fillers in these things, I don't get the jitters whenever I drink them. I'm perfectly fine. All you got to do is go to w.gg, use promo code Mr. Tipton33, MR Tipton 33, save up to 10% on all of your W products, and it's going to be a good thing for you. All natural. You don't have to worry about getting the jitters or any of that stuff. You will feel great. You'll notice that you'll have more focus. W Energy, shout out to them for being a big and great supporter of what it is that we do here with the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. Shout out to John Farrell 234 who tuned in on Instagram, Drea Thomas as well, Destiny tuning in over on the various social media channels. Also, shout out to everyone that's been a part of today's show. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was going into, sorry, I got to bring something up here real quick. The NFL and their constant need to have rule changes to certain things, right? Like last year we had the dynamic kickoff, and we're always trying to figure out things to do with the kickoff in the NFL. And this year, the NFL, according to an article on ESPN, the NFL projects that its kickoff return rate will rise between 60 and 70% if owners approve a new rule change that places touchbacks at the 35-yard line. The competition committee chairman, Rich McKay, said on Wednesday, the proposal is among several rules and bylaw proposals owners will consider in their annual meeting next week in Palm Beach, Florida. At least 24 votes from the owners are in need for approval. The rate moved from 21.8% in 2023 to 32.8% last season, the league's first look at the revamped kickoff structure designed by special teams coaches and the NFL office. Touchbacks were spotted at the 30-yard line last year, and the average return was 27.6 yards. So what they're saying is, instead of spotting the ball for a touchback at the 30-yard line, we're now going to spot it at the 35-yard line. So now we get a 65-yard, 65-yard drive down the field in order to get a touchdown if there's a touchback. Penalty for kicking the ball all the way down into the end zone. Look at you. Kick it to the people. It has a land in the safe zone, and then now we can run and do all the things it is that we want to do. I genuinely ask this to the people that are watching right now. I've got 140 people that are watching right now that I can see that are watching, and whoever's watching over on Instagram as well. Do we care about the kickoff? Is the kickoff really something that's where we're going to hang our hat? That's where we're going to, we want the exciting play from the kickoff? Or can we just get rid of it and spot the ball at the 25-yard line or whatever and then just move on from there? Do we really need the extra time that it takes from the kickoff? Like, does anyone genuinely get amped up for a kickoff? I think there's more punt returns than there are kickoff returns now. And if the penalty is, we're just going to move the ball 10 yards from where it was 2 years ago, I feel like what you're doing now is you're doing too much. Like, genuinely, you're doing too much when it comes to making rule changes in the NFL to try to get what it is that we're going on now, right? We had an influx of people that tuned in, so the 160 of you that are watching right now, if you see a kickoff, are you excited about that? Like, what's the point of keeping the kickoff, right? If it's all about, we don't want dudes to get hurt, we don't want this, we don't want that, and we're going to start penalizing you if you kick it into the end zone so that way dudes don't get hurt, why do we even still keep the damn kickoff? Shouldn't we just abolish the kickoff and say, you score a touchdown, you kick the extra point, you get the ball at the 25-yard line? Marlene, who actually plays football, she plays with the New Mexico Bonitas. She says no, and I hate participating in it also, LOL. And that's one of the things I remember, right? Like, whenever you're on kickoff coverage in high school or whatever level you played football at, you kind of hated whenever you watched or whenever you had to participate in the kickoff, right? Especially whenever you knew your kicker was pretty bad and, like, the ball just goes out of bounds or it just does anything like that, right? I feel like what we're doing is we're trying to make too many rule changes that the NFL is starting to just look weird, right? Mark Saldana saying, I used to love it back in the Devin Hester days. Doesn't mean much now, right? And I think that's the thing, right? Like, people love whenever you have a kicker like the Dallas Cowboys, Brandon Aubrey, who can kick a 66-yard field goal and make it look like nothing, right? Like Justin Tucker and the people like that can make that long kick look like nothing. You love when your kicker can do that. So now you're asking your kicker not to just, I was going to say a word that I can't say on Roku, but you are asking your kicker not to boot the hell out of that kick just so that way they can be a possibility of a kickoff return. Even if the penalty is that they get the ball at the 35-yard line, I'm still going to tell my kicker, kick the hell out of that damn ball. Because chances are my defense is going to be able to stop you at the 35-yard line or wherever the hell you get the ball at. So what's the point here, right? Like why is it that we want to pretend like the kickoff is this sacred thing that we need to, hold on to for the remainder of time? It's just a kickoff. It doesn't mean a damn thing. Man, I'm more amped up about this than I thought I was going to be. It's a kickoff. It's kickers. Kickers doing kicker stuff. Ugh. The NFL rule changes time and time again. I'm trying to find what some of the other potential rule changes could be. I think we can talk about those tomorrow. Remember, on Friday's show, it's a TIP VIP Friday. Y'all have questions. I'll put up a prompt on social media. Y'all ask the sports questions there. We'll answer the question. It doesn't even have to be a sports question. It can just be a whatever question. But I'm tired of hearing all these damn rule changes in the NFL. Let's change overtime. So that way overtime can be much more competitive and people can be, people can all be happy, and all the little birdies and everything like that, and everything's just so fun and it's all fair. Oh, fair. That's one of the fun things I love to hear. Fair. Everything about fair. It's dumb to me. It's really, really one of the dumbest things that I think I've seen is we have to try to make the game fair. If the game was fair, then you would have actual parity in the NFL. The game isn't fair. It's not going to be fair. It's not supposed to be fair. I'm tired of the rule changes going through with everything in the NFL. Just absolutely done with it. And you know what else I'm done with in the NFL? Aaron Rodgers. How is this guy still in the news? That's because we have to keep talking about it. Yesterday, the Minnesota Vikings, their general manager comes out and says, I'm trying to find where his name is, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah says that they are not 100% shutting the door on Aaron Rodgers being the next quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. Shout out to Don't Have Time for Pasta who tuned in over on the Instagram page. Thank you so much for being a part there. Adolfo-Mensah refused multiple opportunities to rule out the possibility of revisiting discussions with Aaron Rodgers later in the offseason if he is still available. Rodgers visited the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, but another possible suitor, the Giants, seem to have moved on. Obviously, the Giants have moved on. Marlene Salcedo saying, leave Aaron alone. You're going to get all worked up. Ha, ha, ha. Aaron Rodgers ruins my blood pressure. I can say that with 100% certainty. Aaron Rodgers hurts my blood pressure. I don't even have blood pressure problems. Aaron Rodgers just always finds a way to kill my vibe, my blood pressure, everything like that. Shout out to my nephew, Brad, for tuning in. I see him over on Instagram. I always love whenever I get to see family tuning in to the show. It always makes me a little happier whenever I get to see that. Shout out, Brad. I know you're going to be going to the Marines soon. You're going to do a fantastic job. You really are going to do a fantastic job. Okay, so the reason why they're not moving on yet from the conversation of Aaron Rodgers is I think the smart move as a GM is that no matter what you do, you kind of have to leave the door open just in case. Just in case, right? Like just you never want to speak in absolutes. I'm one of the people that says you never speak in absolutes. I understand the irony there. I said it on purpose that way. But you shouldn't speak in absolutes, right? Like absolutisms are a bad thing, especially whenever it comes into relationships like what they have with the NFL, right? Like that's one of the things that you've really got to look into is if you slam the door shut on the possibility of getting Aaron Rodgers, then you say to your fan base, we're never going to get this guy. What happens if J.J. McCarthy gets hurt and Aaron Rodgers is still there week 2 of the NFL season? Well, you try to go after Aaron Rodgers. As Mireya says, relax, Aaron Rodgers will be fine. Mark Salanya saying Aaron Rodgers is slowly becoming another Brett Favre. I think we're one retirement and like 4 or 5 genital pictures away from Aaron Rodgers completing his full transformation into Brett Favre. That's all we need. If you had that on the bingo card, that's all we need. Adrian Zamudio saying good morning. Destiny saying Aaron Rodgers wasn't good enough to be Favre when Favre was done. Damn. Hating on Aaron Rodgers. I like it. Anytime anyone gets to hate on Aaron Rodgers, I'm a happy guy. And my guy Pat Costello, shout out to him. You know, I got nothing but love for you, my dude. Aaron Zamudio saying, how you doing, my guy? I'm doing fantastic. I hope you are doing fantastic as well. My guy Pat Costello on Unsportsmanlike today, he says that the Steelers need Aaron Rodgers more than Aaron Rodgers needs the Steelers, but I don't necessarily agree with that. Mireya saying, don't hate on Aaron Rodgers. Why would you? It's not that. Yeah, actually, you know what? Yeah, I guess I am hating on Aaron Rodgers because why the hell not? Right? Like he is, for all intents and purposes, a terrible, terrible human being. And I say that as someone that knows his brother. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I met his brother like once. I can text Jordan Rodgers later on today and we'll have ourselves a good conversation. We speak at least once or twice a month maybe. And it's just about silly like sports stuff because whenever I worked at ESPN, I was a producer for the show that Jordan Rodgers was on along with Jason Fitz, right? So I keep in contact with those guys because I got nothing but love for those guys. They were the first ones. They wanted me to record their voicemail messages with my voice and make an alarm with my voice to be the thing that wakes them up. That was a part of the show that we kept talking about on there. So we have a genuine relationship. And I hate that my friend was hurt by this jerk who continues to just be a jerk. And there's no accountability. There's no anything like that happens with it, right? So maybe, yeah, my judgment is a bit clouded when it comes to that. Linda McGrath saying, hey, Tip, have a great show. Thank you so much, Linda. I hope Mac is feeling better today. I want to give a shout out to Sonia, who's rolling her eyes at me. But I want to give a shout out to Sonia, who has stepped up, filling in for Mac, all the things that Mac does. I think if anything, everyone that's a part of the that's a part of the National Streaming Sports Network has a newfound appreciation for everything it is that Mac does. Hopefully you get better, buddy. Soon. Better soon. I know you'll get better. You get better soon. But my question is, why is it that these teams are genuflecting to Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, if you're the Steelers, are you really going to sit there and be like, okay, well, we'll just wait? And the thing is that Aaron Rodgers can wait all the time. He can wait all the way until August or not August, until April 29th to make his decision on if he wants to be with the team or not. And that's really if he wants to do it that early. Again, there is the possibility that he just misses the entire offseason and says, oh, okay, well, I'll show up to this team now. Well, now you've messed up the ability of getting to know your teammates and getting on the same page and all of that other stuff that they've got going on. Sonia saying the eye roll was just a joke. I know. I get it. I got you. And then, yes, we are appreciative of Mac and Linda. Get better, Mac. Mireya saying that's still someone else's perspective and relationship with Aaron. Aaron will be judged by the powers that be. In regards to football, though, the guy has come through the majority of times. He is a Hall of Fame QB. I will rebut that by saying he is a one-time champion, which proves that in the 20 years he's played, he's only come through one time, right? And he's only been to one Super Bowl. So he hasn't made it to the big game more often than not. And the thing is sure, you have moments of Aaron Rodgers coming through. When did he do that recently? Right? Like the last couple of years that he was with the Packers, they had a good enough team to get to the NFC Championship game. He says they don't have enough talent. He leaves, and there's still a playoff team without him. He goes to the Jets, and we'll take the Achilles injury out of it. He goes to the Jets, and last year, the Jets were never in contention for a playoff spot. So, yeah, you can say he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, and I agree with you. He is a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he hasn't come through in the last decade or more, right? Like, the one championship isn't enough to be like, oh, that quarterback's going to be a great quarterback of all time. If that's the case, then we need to make sure we put some respect on Jeff Hostetler's name and Brad Johnson's name and Trent Dilfer's name and have, okay, well, those guys came in clutch because they have just as many championships as Aaron Rodgers does. And it's the same thing with like Eli Manning, right? Like, sure, Eli Manning might be a Hall of Fame quarterback and he might have the 2 Super Bowl wins, but is he the guy that came through for the Giants time and time and time again? He's not. And Aaron Rodgers hasn't been that guy for either team that he's played for in at least a minimum of 5 seasons. So why is it that we're saying, okay, well, we have to genuflect and bend the knee to Aaron Rodgers all the time? Marlene Salcedo saying he came through on Netflix. That show, oh, God. I watched the first episode, Marlene, and I couldn't get done with it. It felt like an episode of The Office where Aaron Rodgers would be like, yeah, I'm just trying to get better so I can get back to my teammates. And then he finds the camera. Because I love just being out there on the football field. It's the best place on earth. It felt like an episode of The Office where all he's doing is just looking at the camera, trying to find the camera and do that. And I see that Lady Spalding has tuned in. Cassandra has tuned in. I know she's a huge Green Bay Packers fan. Mireya saying, well, what will it take to be a Hall of Fame then if a Super Bowl and numbers and MVPs are not enough? I'm not saying that he's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. We can agree on that. I'm saying what he is right now is not enough to be letting him have all the power as like the guy that, okay, are you going to come to my team or not? You already have people on the Pittsburgh Steelers being like, look, dude, you either want to be here or you don't want to be here. And this is before he's even a part of the team. He's losing the locker room. He's losing his teammates before he even gets on the team. Like he's alienating his potential teammates before he's even with them. And I'm not saying it's a tough crowd. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. All of us can say that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. But the incarnation we have of Aaron Rodgers right now is not that Hall of Fame quarterback. He didn't age like Tom Brady did, right? Where Tom Brady had all of the Hall of Fame careers and all the accolades and stuff like that. It was more along the lines of he had a really good run. He was able to get the team all the way over to there, and now they weren't able to do that. Mireya saying nobody's giving the power. That's why he's not on any team. That's why I say relax. He's not going to be on any team. He is going to be on a team because someone out there is going to take a flyer on him. Why? Because he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. That's what I'm saying. Like, again, the fact that it's a conversation that's being had, right? Like the Minnesota Vikings. Well, we're not going to shut the door 100% on him because we want to have the possibility of him. That's the issue here, right? Like, okay, why is it the possibility of Aaron Rodgers is enough to alienate your locker room? Wow. We got to keep the conversation going. Like I said, tomorrow is a VIP TIP Friday. I will put out the prompts on social media. I will leave it open for y'all. Y'all ask the questions. I will come up with the answers for you. That'll be a fun time. Want to give a shout out to everyone that tuned in on today's show. It was a great conversation. Mireya, Marlene, Adrian, Tommy, Sonia, Cassandra, everyone that tuned in on today's show. I appreciate y'all so much. We will see you tomorrow on Friday's edition of the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. You all know there are hundreds of betting You all know there are hundreds of betting sites out there, but don't be fooled. Some sites are legal in some states only, some sites pay in Bitcoin, and some sites have even been hacked. However, BetUS has been in business for over 30 years. They have future bets that are paying out in the thousands, and there's still time for you to bet on the Super Bowl, the National Championship, and even the NBA Championship. Just use the QR code right here, and it will take you to the BetUS site. BetUS. Check it out and bet responsibly.